Hello, it's Zoe and Joe here, and we're here today to talk to you about a model of learning developed by Noel Birch in the 1970s that helps us to understand different levels of awareness and competence when we're learning, and for us, some of the emotions that can evoke as we're going through. So you may know this as the conscious competence model, and there's 4 levels. The first is your unconscious incompetence, which is when you don't know what you don't know. And so there's a real opportunity for you to explore hidden potential and also perhaps hidden blocks, things that are getting in your way. So that's level 1. The second level of learning is this conscious incompetence, which is when you become aware of what you aren't currently doing well or as well as what you would like. So that's when you know what you don't know. And that can be quite an uncomfortable area for many people who aren't used to feeling that tension around learning. So there's that one. And then the next level is conscious competence. And that's where you know what you need to do and you know what it is that you've learned, but you really have to think about it. It doesn't necessarily flow easily, which is what the next level is, which is your unconscious competence, where you're able to just flow, you're in flow, you're able to do it without even thinking, and it's like second nature to you. And we will move up and down this ladder of learning, I think as it's referred to, at any point in time in a learning journey. And we're going to talk to you about how that applies in coaching, specifically to coaches. So where would you start, Joe?
Yeah, I think having an awareness of what elements of your coaching practice you would plot into each of these 4 areas is a really healthy thing for ethical coaches to do from time to time. So if we think about what am I as a coach unconsciously incompetent about? So that requires me to think about what are the breadth of coaching skills, behaviors, knowledge, and how does my current knowledge, skills, and behaviors map against those? That can help us to start to touch on that. Of course, once it comes into our awareness, we're actually in the category of consciously incompetent. So then we can think, right, now that might occur from kind of comparing ourselves to other coaches. Maybe you go to a CPD event and you think, well, I don't know anything about what that person just said. Should I know about that? So that might prompt an awareness of it. It might be that you're reading a book or an article, you're listening to a podcast or watching a video like this. It might also be that when you're in a coaching session with a coachee, you experience, a time in that session where you think, I don't know where to go with this. I've never heard a client say this. This is new to me. And, you might find yourself saying to the client, I'm actually not sure where to go now. And so that's a little marker for you to actually go away, reflect on what that was and, what it is that you would like to become more competent with.
Yeah, and I think before we move on to the next stage, I think those 2 stages in this ladder of learning for me, certainly the unconscious incompetence, what we don't know. Supervision is a great place for me to do this exploration. So working with my supervisor, bringing things to the table about a client relationship or something that I'm noticing really helps to bring into my awareness things that I have yet to discover. I think supervision is a great place for CPD, and also joining CPD programs. Even though now we sit here 10 years into our profession, like very experienced, I know that every time I join a CPD program, I'm going to learn something new because there's so much unexplored territory when it comes to coaching. And even if the content is familiar, the way I integrate it, the way I practice it, the people that I meet, they teach me something new about practice as well. So for me, unconscious incompetence is actually an exciting phase where I look at it through the lens of what have I yet to learn. But I think sometimes learnings do take me by surprise. Particularly in supervision, I might be, gosh, like how did I not see that? Which equally is exciting, but sometimes also surprising.
Yeah, and I actively ask my supervisor, I say, what am I not thinking about here? So I might have shared, a situation, how I approached it, what I was thinking, what I'm thinking about doing next. But I'm curious, I want to have that supervision. I want to have another lens, that challenge on my work as well. So developing as a coach is also about recognizing what you do well. Mm-hmm. How can you therefore leverage your talents even more in service of your clients? So taking time to work out, what am I kind of really, what am I, I've maybe still got to think about it, so I'm consciously competent, but I can do this well. And how can you use that stage to build rapport with your coaching clients? And then we've got that stage where we're unconsciously competent. So what are the things that we're doing without even thinking about it? And I think it's really important to be aware of that. So we often use the driving car analogy when we explain this model to people. So that unconscious competence area is like when you've been driving the car for, say, 5 minutes, you realize you're somewhere and you think, I cannot remember any of that journey. And you don't know what the speed was that you're traveling. You think, oh, was I doing this? Was I going over the speed limit or not? And if we think about that in the coaching situation, that might be around, did I overstep the mark or not? Like I'm just kind of, in my flow or doing what I've always done, but I'm not really thinking about maybe this particular client. So if you find yourself maybe getting a bit lazy actually as a coach, using the same stuff with every person, then that might be an indication that actually, like with all models, they're not really linear. There are points at which you hop off and all of a sudden you think something else comes into your awareness where you're like, right, I think there's something else I need to learn here, either about myself, how I am with my coachees, or the work that I'm doing. And to kind of relate to what you were saying about CPD, yes, I learn things, I think about how I integrate them. When I go on a CPD course and I'm fully present, I am open to changing as a person. Mm-hmm. And that's in the spirit of, who I am is how I coach. So if I'm not open to developing myself, then probably my coaching isn't going to grow and develop.
Yeah, and it reminds me of the comfort zone model, that what you were saying at the end there around that, just able to do things without even thinking. I think spending too much time there is risky, as you've described. I think also what that space is about is really recognizing what is it that you're doing well. And I think something that all coaches come to at some point is having to explain who are you as a coach, like to your clients, like what is it that you do that is different from other coaches, and really getting into that zone around, okay, what have I forgotten that I'm taking for granted that I'm doing really well that actually my clients might want to know about, so they can make a choice about whether they work with me or not.
Yeah,
and I think it's such an important part.
Yeah, clients will often say, like, how did you get to that? Like, how did you get to that question? Because it'll be they'll experience it as a powerful question or something. They'll make a connection as a result of the question you ask, and they're sort of simultaneously answering the question and wanting to know, how did you do that? And we often talk about our role as coaches being helping the coachee to train their own inner coach. So in service of that, in service of them being able to do that, if you can take what is you're unconsciously competent in and almost take it back a step to becoming conscious about how you do it, that enables you then to explain what you've seen and heard and how you've maybe related things over a number of sessions to come to that question. And then they suddenly go, oh, I've never thought about it that way, but now I can appreciate that and I can look for that moving forward. So they get new insight from it. So it's a very simple model, this. The hardest thing is about saying the phrases without getting tongue-tied, to be honest. If you Google, well, it's called different things, really.
But ladder of learning, conscious competence model,
then you'll see there's loads and loads of different images. Some are pyramids, some are displayed as, quadrants, all different ways, and you'll probably find one that you like. And think about, if you're watching this and you are a manager, perhaps you're not a qualified coach, perhaps there's ways that you can incorporate these elements into the conversations that you're having with your team in a way that can help them with their own development.
Yeah, absolutely. So a way to use it for yourself. You can also obviously use it with others and help them to understand where they are on this continuum and what their needs are around their learning. And if you've enjoyed this resource, there's plenty more on our blog. Come and take a look at www.igcompany.co.uk/blog.